Welcome back, everyone. This is Griot of the Diaspora. I am your host, Nakaira G, and today we are going to be talking about Lily Phillips and the I Slept with 100 Men documentary that has been obviously floating all around YouTube. I'm hoping now that this video is going to be very short because I really don't have that much to say about it, but I did think it would be really interesting to talk about this, mainly because I saw how class and privilege and whiteness played such a role in the way that people reacted to this documentary. So I pretty much just want to give my commentary on it. I want to talk about it from a Black woman's perspective, and then we're just going to go on about our day, okay? Visit my website, nakedgoldonline.com/travel to purchase my travel planner and travel budget journal. So next time you go on your travels, make sure you take this ebook with you or print it out. Thanks. So, from my understanding, I watched the documentary. I did watch it. It was very interesting. So I'll just go through it really quick, just give a quick synopsis. It is exactly what you heard. It is a white woman in her 20s who is a OnlyFans star, I guess. And she wanted to sleep with 100 men in one day. And so there was a guy who wanted to document this journey for her, and he kind of went about it in like a interview documentary style. So like a week before the actual day of her sleeping with 100 men, he was basically doing interviews, talking to her about how she's feeling, her ideas. He was just trying to you can tell he was trying to humanize her. And he was trying to talk to her to make sure that, he wasn't talking to someone that was kind of off their rocker or someone that, but even throughout the documentary, she seems very level-headed. She seems very comfortable with what she does. She seems like she has even read a lot about what it means to be a sex worker. But at the end of the documentary, she after she's finished with the 100 men, she comes into the living room area as kind of like a debriefing, and when she comes into frame, her eyes are already red in a way that looks like she's been crying, right? And so the interviewer, the host of the documentary, he was just asking her questions like, how do you feel? Would you recommend it? Did you enjoy it? And so she does say that she wouldn't recommend it. And even though I can have empathy for people, she said something that made me realize, right, we're talking to a white woman right now. Because she basically said that she felt like a prostitute. And she was saying, as tears were coming out of her eyes, she was saying, the experience was sort of like being a prostitute, where people are just coming in and out. And she made comments about, I guess like, people only had 5 minutes, and some people probably didn't get her best performance. And she felt bad that she wasn't able to give people her all, even though some people traveled, so far to come and have that experience of sleeping with her. But what pissed me off was when she said it felt like being a prostitute. As someone who is pro sex work, as someone who have, friends who are sex workers, I don't know. I just found it disrespectful as a white woman who is on OnlyFans, who is a sex worker, to now be saying, I feel like a prostitute. Well, yeah. But she said the word prostitute like Like it was beneath what she has been doing. And it made me realize the way that white people see themselves, they see themselves as capable of being able to do anything in a way where they will even justify their identities in a way that would make you think that they're being self-aware or self-conscious, when really they're being classist. That was a very classist statement that she made. It's almost like being a prostitute. It's not almost like it. It is. And for somebody who does OnlyFans, I'm not really understanding how you can say the word prostitute as if it's beneath you or as if it's something you don't understand. Now, I understand that there are different levels and hierarchy of sex work. But the moment that someone pays you for sex, you are a sex worker. And depending on the context in which you are being paid for sex, you are a prostitute. Right. The second thing that I found interesting about this documentary is where privilege came in. If a black woman would have done this, or let's say if a black woman would have publicized this, me and every other black woman in the world would have been called every name in the book but a child of God. We would have been called B's and H's. We called that when we don't do that stuff. We called that just because we went to college, right? So to see a white woman do this, and there was no uproar, it actually went viral on social media the day that it came out. And it actually was something that people were like, immediately people were like, oh my God, like what? Like, why would she do this? But then you have somebody like a Sexy Red who doesn't do nearly as much as what this girl did. And Sexy Red is called the cancer of black women. But there is no white woman in the world who is looking at this white woman and watched her documentary and said, she's making us all look bad. That's not happening. Even in the documentary, the interviewer, he interviewed a woman who also does OnlyFans. And you know what her concerns were? The girl's mental health. You can't make this shit up. She was concerned that the girl's mental health was really intact. She was concerned that it does not reflect the lack of love or the lack of self-validation that this girl has for herself. When the interviewer even asked the other OnlyFans star or whatever, he asked her, like, do you think that this will influence the industry and will make other girls do this? And she literally said, I hope not. Now, I don't know if she brought up race because obviously this is an edited documentary, but it definitely, the concept of race did not even come up not one time in the whole documentary. And I can guarantee you, if this was a black woman, the whole conversation would have been about race. The whole conversation would have been about her race. If this was a black woman on OnlyFans being a porn star, her race, her accent, her ghetto-ness, her hair, everything would have been picked apart. They didn't mention this woman's whiteness not one time. When the interviewer even asked this girl, he said, he asked her about like her concerns, and she said that her parents are a bit concerned about if she will ever find a boyfriend, right? And she literally said, I don't think I would have a problem with that, though. I'm pretty sure someone would still date me, with a straight face. Yo, being white is so crazy. It's something I pray to never be, but to be able to live your life and not have to think about your race or your skin color in anything that you do. I can't even walk down the street in the African country that I live in without having to think about my identity because people are so obsessed with it. So to be a white woman in the UK where you can rent out an Airbnb, let's talk about privilege and class again. First off, Black people get kicked out of Airbnbs just for having one guest show up to their Airbnb. Before, not even a guest that spends a night. And I'm talking from experience. I've had friends visit me in my Airbnb, and my Airbnb host charged me for it, for having them visit me. There are countless other stories of people who have tried to have parties at Airbnbs, people who have tried to have just dinner parties, just friends to come over, and there being a problem with the Airbnb host. You mean to tell me in the UK, a white woman can rent out an Airbnb and 100 people go in and out that Airbnb within 24 hours and nothing happens? Nothing happens? Wow. Then, at the end, where she's visibly crying, she's not even crying for herself. She's crying because she felt guilty and shame from the men who didn't get her best performance. I just think that let me put my black jacket on really quick, right? I think it is really disgusting how for Black women and men, when one of us do something, we're all looked at as that thing. I can't tell you how many things I'm perceived as simply because of another person that I've never met. I just had a conversation with somebody a few days ago about my experiences in Ghana. And you know what his response was? Oh, well, there's people like Tariq Nasheed who say things about Ghanaians. So, unfortunately, there's people who come and they do bad things. So, and I said, so I'm being judged and perceived over people that I don't know, right? And he didn't even want to admit that that's what he just said. And I'm like, so when I say I don't feel safe somewhere, how can you not understand me? But you will literally say, oh, but there's all these people who did all these bad things. So unfortunately, people are going to look at you the same way. I have to deal with that in a whole nother country than when I was born. But white women can literally be the scums of the earth. And nobody says, wow, white women are this and that. Wow, white women they're just declining. Oh, wow, white women, they do not believe in themselves. Nobody says that. But when Sexy Red drops another song, we're all going to be called B's and H's. Can't make it up. So, if you guys have watched that documentary, I would suggest watching it just hopefully to see a side of humanity that I pray none of us go towards. But I will say, as somebody who is a researcher, I do I'm not going to say enjoy, I do appreciate when documentaries or just content is created and it's stories or it's topics that are a little bit more harder to digest. I do appreciate that type of content at the end of the day, because I think that as a population of people on this planet, there needs to be a lot more content that interrogates our mentalities, that interrogates our spiritualities. You know, I think that the world is turning into a place where people are shutting up. People are not believing in themselves. People are doing things that just 10 years ago we couldn't imagine it being normal. And so I do appreciate when people make content like this that is specifically made for us to think and for us to challenge ourselves. I don't believe that this documentary was solely made just out of greed or just out of, salaciousness or virality. I don't necessarily believe that it was made with those intentions. Obviously, it's going to do that with a headline like "I slept with 100 men," but I do believe that there was a sense of challenging society that this documentary did present, because it challenges what we think is okay as consumers, and it challenges what we think is okay as entrepreneurs and as business owners. And I think it just challenged who we are as a society. Um, and I don't think that this was necessarily like a negative thing, in the sense of, I don't think that the documentary itself is negative. It's actually presented in a very informative way, in a very kind of safe and consensual way, consensual on both sides, but yeah, I would implore for people, if you're going to watch the documentary, watch it through the lens of like, if you were watching this in your sociology class. Don't watch this for shits and giggles. I would say watch this as if you were in your sociology course. And actually, if I'm going to be honest, I would implore a lot of sociology students and media students and women and gender studies students to actually use this documentary as a possible thesis for, something that they're writing. Because I think that you could definitely talk about women and gender. I think that there is a lot of conversation around consumerism with this documentary. You can talk about the difference in experience in sex work between black women and white women. I think that there's a lot of things that you can pull from a documentary like this. So if you are a student, or just a researcher like I am, but if you are a student, I would definitely advise you to watch this documentary through an academic lens. I watched it through an academic lens, so I didn't watch it as entertainment, because it's not entertaining to me. I watched it through a very academic and scholarly lens, and I think that's why I'm able to make this video. So yeah, that's all I got for y'all, until next time.